Hey everyone, so I've been trying out Arknights Endfield on my Steam Deck, and it took a little bit of work to get it to work. So I'm just going to share how I got it to work. I can leave some links down in the description, and then also share some settings that I think work pretty well for this game. I haven't put a ton of hours into it. I'm just in the opening hours, um, but it took a little bit of work to get started, and so I thought I'd share. Just so everyone knows, I'm using a Steam Deck LCD. So if you have an LCD, this will work fine. And if you have the OLED, I'm sure it'll work even slightly better. But this is what I had to do. So I have found two successful ways to get Arknights running. One way, which I don't currently have installed, is by using Heroic Launcher. If you haven't used Heroic Launcher, um, it is a pretty cool launcher that allows you to install games from other stores pretty easily onto your Steam Deck. Um, if you use Heroic Launcher, you need to hook up your Epic Games account to Heroic, and then you can download Arknights Infield that way. Honestly, this is probably the easiest, no fuss way to do it. I didn't have any problems doing it this way. The only weirdness is you're running an Epic game, and anytime the client needs to update, you need to go into Heroic Launcher and force an update on the Griffline or Grifflink launcher, which doesn't take, which isn't that difficult. The game will tell you it needs to update. You just go into Heroic and update it. I did that. I wanted to try something a little cleaner though, and I wanted to use the actual installer direct from the company themselves. So I thought, let me just download the installer and do it that way. I went directly to their site and downloaded the launcher and ran into a bunch of problems. This way, they do some weirdness where the the path name for where the launcher is installed is uh, based on the version number of the launcher. So it's just going to be really manual to update every time. So what I'm currently using, and this one again took a little bit of work, is using non-Steam launchers. Non-Steam launchers is a plugin um, for um, for SteamOS, and I'm going to open it up here. It exists for Decky Loader, but they also have a standalone. And I'm sorry if you can't see this really well. I'm trying to pick it up on the iPhone, but it exists for another plugin called Decky Loader. But they also have a standalone non-Steam launchers plugin that you can download. I'm just using the Decky Loader plugin. And on here, you can actually choose to install game launchers. And if you go a few pages down, you can install Grifflink, which is the launcher that you need for Arknights Endfield. It's still then, it wasn't quite as simple as I'd hoped. So I installed it, I restarted everything. You can't just dive right into the launcher from game mode. From there, I did a little bit of customization. You'll need to go in and actually change the name unless you just want to leave it as Grifflink. And you'll need to switch into desktop mode in order to go through the setup. So if you want to download everything, sign in, go through the initial setup phase in desktop mode, because this will pop up a bunch of dialog boxes that don't work very well on the Steam Deck game mode. So once that's all out of the way, I still ran into problems actually launching it, and I found that that was based on the Proton version that I'm using. So if you just go with default, whatever it defaulted to, I think it defaulted to experimental. Um, I ran into some issues where the game either didn't launch, um, or if I switched to compatibility here, if I tried something else like Proton 9 or some of these other versions, I kept getting these weird error messages saying that my drivers were outdated and the game wouldn't launch. So what I ended up doing again is I use Proton GE, and I actually noticed that here in non-Steam launchers, there's an option to update Proton GE, and I forced this to load in GE Proton 10-29. I didn't really try the other ones. I just kept trying until I found one that worked, and 10-29 is the one that worked for me. There may be others that work for you as well, but that's what worked for me. So make sure you go into your settings, go into properties and compatibility, and make sure you're using Proton GE or GE Proton. Okay, once you get all that set up, the game actually runs okay. I have been surprised. So I'll go ahead and log in here. This is a weird thing, by the way. You can't actually use the launcher with the controller, so you have to use the touchscreen. All right, so now we're in. Turn up the volume a little bit here. All right. So now we're in the game. And I'll tell you some of the settings I had to use just to get this playable. I think by default, even on low settings, this game looks pretty good. So I'm going to go over to settings here. Now you'll notice when you first load, the game will tell you to use very low. And if you use anything else besides very low, you'll get these warning messages that pop up. I found if you go to low, it actually works just fine. And I was able to run it at 60 frames per second with 100% render scale, but I found every time I did that, it just really fired up the fans on my Steam Deck. So I actually dropped it down to 30, and my fans are still a little low right now, but are still a little loud right now, but this is a little bit better. And if I drop the render scale down a little bit to 90%, it seems to go a little more smoothly. Well, anyway, this is how I've been playing. There may be a few drops here and there, but otherwise it runs pretty well and looks surprisingly good. So I'll continue to play it, and if I learn anything else, maybe I'll update here. Thanks, everyone.